Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Mass Retirees Weekly Update. Today's Friday, April 15th. I'm Sean Duhamel. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in again this week. Now, today's Good Friday. I want to wish a happy Passover to everyone who's celebrating Passover, which begins, of course, this evening. And of course, we have Easter this Sunday, so happy Easter, everybody. We are busy, as you can see. I have a tie on for the third day in a row this week. There's a lot of activity happening here in Boston. Next week's update is going to focus heavily on the state budget and the steps that we are taking to make improvements to the cost of living adjustment, primarily for state and teacher retirees, as well as allowing some greater flexibility to pay the full 5.9% CPI at the local level. And again, next Friday's message, we will be updating you on what our plans are, what steps are being taken to make those improvements, and the fact that the state budget debate begins a week from this coming Monday. On Monday, April 25th is the rough schedule. So, there's a lot going on, so stay tuned. But today, I'm joined, of course, by our association General Counsel Bill Reary and our association's legislative liaison, Nancy McGovern. If you've been watching these videos over the last 6 months or so, you know that every other month when our newsletter, The Voice, is published, and it's in the mail right now, and I know throughout the course of this week, a lot of you have already received your copy of it because you've been reaching out with either phone calls or emails and so forth with questions or comments about the things that we're reporting on in the newsletter. But we want to use this opportunity, as we have done with the past several issues, to kind of walk you through what's in the newsletter, why we're reporting on it, why this is important, and just give it a little bit more context. And we've led off this edition. Again, this is the May Voice. Hopefully you have it. But we have led off, our top story is the issue that I covered last week in last week's message, which is the creation of the Mass Retirees Foundation for Retirement Research and Education. Now, this is a concept that we've been working on for quite a few years, and just in theory, we decided to launch it at this time for a couple of reasons. One, we believe that there is a great need for this type of work to take place in the public retirement policy area. There is no other organization that we're aware of, either here in Massachusetts or nationally, that focuses exclusively on the unique issues that impact all of you as public retirees. Oftentimes, we have organizations like the Pioneer Institute and the Mass Taxpayers Foundation and other organizations like that that are focused on more of a conservative approach when it comes to public retirement. They don't typically support things like COLA enhancements or robust, high quality, affordable retiree health insurance. So what has been missing is an organization to delve into those areas, do high quality factual research on why these benefits are necessary and what steps can be taken to make improvements to these benefits. That's what our association is all about. So to have a separate nonprofit foundation that's exclusively focused on that, while Mass Retirees continues our traditional role of being your advocates, being your lobbyists on Beacon Hill or down in Washington, D.C., as well as in every city and town hall across Massachusetts. The advocacy role is the role of the Mass Retirees Association. The research and education roles, which we will be flushing out in the weeks and months ahead and keeping you fully informed as to what's going on. But that component of what we do will be taken on more and more by the new foundation. So we're really excited about this. And I want to thank those of you who have reached out by phone, by email. A couple of letters have come in since we made the announcement last week. We're getting a lot of really positive feedback, not only from our membership, but from the public employee unions, from policymakers, from legislators. So I think we're onto something here, and we're really excited to share this with you and get this up and running. The other main focus of this newsletter, and there's quite a bit of information in here, but once again, we're heavily focused on health insurance and healthcare policy. It's a big part of what we do. If you've been following the news in terms of your healthcare and healthcare policy, you know that there's a lot going on right now at the State Group Insurance Commission, and we're heavily involved in that. It's also open enrollment period. So Nancy McGovern in particular put a lot of work into several articles in this newsletter to keep you fully informed. That way you don't miss out on anything. If you're interested in making any kind of changes to your healthcare right now, you have the ability to do so. So Nancy, why don't you walk through the various healthcare articles that are in the newsletter and just kind of give a sense of what we're trying to address.
Sure. So right on the front page, just below the foundation article, the GIC had voted at their March meetings to remain stable on the copays and the deductibles. So there'll be no increases to your out-of-pocket costs for the upcoming plan year, which starts July 1. The secondary meeting in March, they voted on the plan rates. While there was a modest increase in the plan rate, which also that increase will depend on what plan you're enrolled in. So you can look to the spread that is in the centerfold, which will have all of the plan rates laid out for each plan that the GIC offers. The rate increase that did occur is well below what we are seeing out in the private sector market. A lot of those plans were upwards of 10% for this coming year. As I said, in the center spread is all of the plans that the GIC offers, along with what their total monthly premium, and it's broken down individual and family. This information was probably included in the benefit decision guides that you received from the GIC, but we like to put it in one compact location for you, lay everything out. There's also a sampling of the GIC Medicare co-payments and whatnot included in that center spread. Also with regard to the GIC, as we have been reporting, actually, let me go back to the open enrollment period. So the open enrollment period is occurring now. It started April 6th through May 4th. If you are planning on making a change, that needs to be done by May 4th. You can either change through on their online portal called My GIC Link, or you can mail an enrollment form to the GIC. If you are having difficulty accessing either the online portal or the actual enrollment form, please feel free to reach out. We do have copies of that we can send out to members. In particular, those who are enrolled in a Fallon plan, they will no longer be offering a GIC plan for this coming enrollment period. So you need to make a choice of either switching plans, or you will automatically be enrolled in the Unicare Plus plan is the default plan for those who do not select a different plan by May 4th if you are enrolled in Fallon. So the other piece with the GIC, as I was saying, is the procurement. The RFR for the medical benefits is currently open. They are hosting a bidders conference next week, and the bidders have 45 days to return their bids if they're going to bid for the plans for the next 5-year cycle. Those plans will be implemented July 1 of 2023. So we also are anticipating that in June, the pharmacy RFR will be released. Over the summer, the Group Insurance Commission will work on reviewing both RFRs with recommendations in the fall, and then the voting later on in the early winter. Also in the addition is an article related to Medicare Advantage plans. I know that we've talked a lot about them, and there's always a lot of questions around the plans that you see on TV during the Medicare open enrollment. And we always caution a buyer beware situation with those plans. Those are Medicare Advantage plans geared towards individuals. And those are usually plans for folks that don't necessarily have access to retiree health insurance through a former employer. a growing sort of interest in Medicare Advantage is being seen at, in particular, the municipal level. We've seen Aetna make bids in multiple communities. Blue Cross and Blue Shield has also developed a Medicare Advantage program for municipal members and their membership. The difference, and we want to stress this, that the key difference between those plans and the ones that you see on TV, those are group Medicare Advantage plans. And the benefit of that is that it's employer offered, and they have national networks, unlike the ones you see on TV, which are limited networks and things like that. So this article kind of lays a lot of those pieces out, and we'll cover the differences, and if anybody has any additional questions about it, feel free to reach out. I think that's, and then towards the end, you will find a 2-page spread on healthcare terminology. So what we are going to be doing, and this is sort of the beginning of it, is providing some of the sort of most used terms, whether this time it's in healthcare, in future editions, we'll see maybe pension related ones, in particular for folks who are maybe recently retired and aren't familiar with all the jargon that we all use on a regular basis. So we tried to lay that out so that you'll see that at the end of the May edition. So I think that covers the GIC healthcare related information.
Thank you, Nancy. And we hope that you members read every newsletter that we send out. This one in particular might be one you want to hold on to for a little while. As Nancy said, we have a lot of information in here that, yes, you can get from another source, from the GIC, for instance, but we try to break it down in a way that's easy to understand, easy to digest. And the addition this time of the glossary that Nancy and Bill put together, I think, answers a lot of the common questions that we get, because there is a lot of jargon thrown around and there's a lot of acronyms that are used, and it can get confusing at times. So to have everything in one place that you can go back and refer to, so it might be something that's you might want to hold on to for a while, and keeping you informed, and not just on the latest news, but giving context to everything that's going on, and walking you through. Yes, the GIC is in the middle of a procurement process. Well, what is that process? What's the timeline look like? What are some of the things that may be happening down the road that we might need to keep an eye on? Those are the types of things that we want to report on, whether it's in the newsletter, whether it's in these weekly videos or on our website and so forth, and in our membership meetings. Now, I am thrilled to announce, and if you've already seen the newsletter, if you watched last week's message, you know that we are finally, after more than 2 years, going back to in-person area membership meetings starting on Friday, May 6th in Peabody at the Peabody Marriott, 11 a.m. Will be our first in-person meeting with our members in more than 2 years, and now it will be 3 years since we've been at the Peabody Marriott. And quite honestly, we don't know what to expect. We don't know how many people are going to show up, or I'm hoping for a robust crowd. That will be wonderful. But we're going to get back out there and meet with you and engage with you. And if you feel comfortable coming to the meeting and you live in the Peabody area, by all means, come by. It would be great to see everybody in person again. At this point in time, we only have one additional in-person meeting scheduled, and that is our annual meeting that will take place in September. The last week in September at Lombardo's. I'm looking at my newsletter. Friday, September 9th at Lombardo's in Randolph will be our annual meeting. Now, we may or may not have additional in-person meetings across the Commonwealth for the remainder of 2022. We're going to see how things go in May, see what kind of a response we get, and also keep an eye on, quite honestly, what's happening with this pandemic. As things are getting back to normal, which is great, we're really excited about it, we also have to keep in mind that COVID-19 has not gone away. It's still out there, and it's going to ebb and flow, and there may be times where we need to be a little bit more cautious than at other times, and it's going to be strictly based on the real-time data of what's happening and what's happening with the virus. Now we're seeing a little bit of an uptick here in Massachusetts, particularly in the Boston area. It does not appear to be severe as of now, and knock on wood, it doesn't become severe and interfere with our ability to safely hold these meetings, because at the end of the day, it's your safety and our safety and the safety of everybody involved that's most important. And as much as we want to see everybody in person, the last thing any of us want to do is put ourselves or you in a position that's unsafe. So if anything changes, we'll be sure to announce it. But as of now, let's hope we can get together on Friday, May 6th and celebrate being in each other's company again. Also, at the same time, we're going to continue to hold our teletown hall events indefinitely. As I explained last week, we've seen a real value in these, and the newsletter on page 3 announces not only the in-person meetings, but our upcoming teletown halls on April 29th in just 2 weeks, and on June 10th would be the next one. And those will be focused on what's happening with the budget and at the state level and any other breaking news. Now, beyond all of that, another key piece of this edition of the newsletter is a full comprehensive update of everything that is happening when it comes to the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. And as we say in the headline, the success or failure of this issue in 2022 is simply going to hinge on compromise. We do not have the votes, and Richie Neal does not have the votes, and Kevin Brady does not have the votes for us to exclusively get 100% of what we want, just to muscle something through both the House and the US Senate. Now, Richie Neal, obviously, as the chairman of Ways and Means, he has the votes to push his bill or any bill through the House of Representatives. However, that's not the case when it comes to the US Senate, where there is a 50-50 split in membership of the Senate between the Democrats and the Republicans. Now, remember, any piece of legislation that has to do with Social Security cannot go through the so-called reconciliation process. It has to go through the normal legislative process in the Senate. And that means that it can be filibustered. It means that we need 60 votes at a minimum to pass something through the Senate. And we're not going to get the 60 votes without Republican support. So it is essential that Mr. Neal and Mr. Brady come together and compromise to jointly push out a bill and pass a bill through the House of Representatives that would then have bipartisan support and a chance of passing the US Senate. We still believe that we can get there this year. We're still very hopeful that we can get there, and it's our job to continue to fight and to push for it. And one of the steps that we have taken just recently is sending a letter, which is printed here in its entirety on page 5. We sent a joint letter with our colleagues in Texas to both Mr. Neal and Mr. Brady, first of all, outlining and highlighting our frustration, and more importantly, your frustration with the lack of progress on this issue. The retirees and the active employees down in Texas are just as upset about this as our members here in Massachusetts. And we try to convey that in a respectful manner in the letter. More importantly, we laid out what we believe to be the outline of a compromise of how to bring people together to maximize the amount of money that we can hopefully restore to your Social Security benefit if you're someone who's already impacted by the WEP, as well as outlining what we believe to be a reasonable compromise of how the new Social Security formula would apply to future retirees several generations into the future. That's what we're focused on. That's what we're going to continue to work on to get through the process. Now, the reason why we've included all of this in the newsletter is we need to be straight with you. We need to explain what's going on, give you the facts, be transparent about what we're doing about this, and most importantly, not lead you to believe that something is possible where it's just not. We're not holding out hope or focused exclusively on a perfect deal. And of course, a perfect deal for everybody would be the full repeal of both WEP and GPO. Well, that's just not going to happen right now. We don't have the votes to pass that, and we explain the reasons why within this newsletter. But if nothing else, you can always count on us to be truthful, to be upfront, to be completely transparent in what we're doing on your behalf. And that's why we've gone to great lengths to explain what's happening and included for you to read with your own eyes the letter that we sent to Mr. Neal and Mr. Brady, so you fully understand what's going on. And the last thing I want to add on this is we understand that you're angry, you're frustrated. In some cases, people have just given up on this. I get notes from time to time and calls from members who have just simply given up all hope that this is ever going to be resolved. And we can't give up hope, and we believe that we're going to be able to be successful here. And I wish it had happened already. I wish we could be declaring some level of victory here, but unfortunately, that's not the case. We have to continue to fight for this, and we're going to continue to do so because we know just how important it is to those of you who are impacted by the WEP. So look to page 4 and 5 for all of the information on the WEP. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me. You have my phone number on your membership card along with Nancy's and Bill's. We're always here to listen and answer your questions and take your feedback, whether it's positive or not. But speaking of something positive, Bill, let me pass it over to you. We have a couple of updates here on Medicare Part B, as well as some information coming from Attorney General Maura Healey that is of interest to our members.
Well, thank you, Sean. It's a pleasure to be on with our members. And it's going to be even a bigger pleasure when we have the meeting next month and we're together with our North Shore members. But Sean pointed out, we have some articles that may have a touch of positive news. And the one that I'm going to focus on first is the one dealing with Medicare Part B. Particularly our members know that are enrolled in Medicare, they were hit with a fairly huge increase in the Medicare Part B premium. And the word got back to the Congress and to federal officials that no one was really pleased with that. Well, there have been developments since then that we've been reporting on in the bulletin. And that's what we did. We're further reporting on those developments in the May Voice. What specifically I'm referring to is that the increase that we saw in the Medicare Part B premium for this year was to a large degree due to a drug for Alzheimer's disease and Aduhelm, and the cost of that drug and the fact that Medicare would have to pay for its coverage. That in effect provided the reason for the somewhat huge increase. Basically, Medicare retirees on average are spending, have seen their Medicare Part B premium go up by almost $250 a year. That's a big number. And but things have had developed since then. And what we talk about in the May bulletin is that not only has Biogen determined that maybe their price was a little bit too steep and have in fact reduced it in half, but also that the federal officials were going to take a much closer look at the coverage for that drug and who in fact would be eligible to have coverage for that drug. And as we report in the bulletin, the federal officials, in this case, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, determined that the coverage for this drug should be limited to approved clinical tests. And that obviously will make a tremendous difference in terms of that cost if it's only going to be for those clinical tests. So that determination by the CMS, quite frankly, came out after we went to press. And I think we point out in there that we couldn't hold it up any longer and published it without exactly knowing what CMS was going to do. Well, that's what they did. And so we feel that that we should see at some point a determination made by CMS that the Medicare premium was too high, and that in fact the enrollees in the plan, including many of our members out there, including myself and my wife, that we're deserving of a break in that premium. We'll keep you posted on that. We're looking at this very, very closely. Now, usually in our bulletin, we try to do a good mix of pension-related issues and also health-related issues. I guess in this particular bulletin, there seems to be more health-related issues. Because one of the other things I just want to talk about, which Sean referred to, is an article that's on the next page from the article on Part B premium, the Medicare Part B premium. What I'm referring to is the article that we did on a program that the Attorney General Maura Healey has to help out retirees who require home care services. Unfortunately, like in many businesses, there are those that just want to take advantage of people. And what the Attorney General has done with this program is provide retirees with hints as to what to avoid when it comes to that, and hints that could be given to the retiree's family to make sure that, quite frankly, they're not being abused or taken advantage of. And the other important part to that story is that it includes contact information to the Attorney General's office. We've obviously, in developing this story, we talked with the Attorney General's staff, and they're very much want any of our members out there that feel that they're in a difficult situation when it comes to the delivery of home care services, that they in fact contact them. They're basically told that's what we're there for. We're there to serve these members, and we'll do what we can for them. So this actually, a story like that is more in the realm of one of our other major functions. I mean, we're obviously an advocacy group, we're a service organization, and we're also an educational organization. And this is part of that responsibility that we take very seriously to provide our people with the best information possible. And that leads me to the last story that I was going to touch upon in the bulletin, which is in the area of local health insurance, developments in that area. The article really it touches upon just 2 communities, but there are other communities out there that are having different developments, developing different approaches to addressing the cost of healthcare. In this case, in the article, it involves the community getting together with the retirees and employees and coming up with an insurance plan, basically in the form of an agreement between the parties. We think that's a very good idea. It locks in some benefits and protects the retirees. But again, this was just our getting the word out there that there are things going on out there, not just at the state level, but particularly at the local level. And that leads me to my last point, which is that when it comes to knowing what's going out there locally, you can see from that story that we depended upon members who actually serve on public employee committees, PECs. They got the word to us. But that, if you may not be on a PEC, we understand that, but you may hear something at the local level involving your health insurance. Don't take for granted that we know it or that someone else is going to contact us. Please just send us an email, give us a call, whatever communication, whatever way works best for you to communicate to us what's going on there at the local level. We would greatly appreciate that. That's what we're there for too. So at this point, Sean, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
No, thank you, Bill. And I think you just finished on an important point. One of the great strengths of our association and of our membership is that everybody's in this together. Everyone's receiving benefits under the same retirement law, Chapter 32. Everyone's healthcare benefits, regardless of where you're retired from, are governed by the same sections of the general law. So it's something that everyone has in common. And by sticking together and advocating for one another and looking out for one another, everybody is collectively better off. So if you hear about something, whether it's healthcare related or local retirement board, there's going to be a lot of activity, hopefully, over the coming months at the local level in terms of COLA improvements at the local boards. We're hearing from our local members and quite honestly, local retirement board officials on a regular basis. Even if you're not retired from that community, turn out, support your local retirees, and let's help one another get through this. And I just want to end on one more high note. if you've been following the newsletter for the last few years, or you may have engaged in this service yourself, you know that we have been working closely with a company called Sensio in a product called IBIS. And it's essentially a telehealth or telemedicine platform that's served through a tablet, looks like an iPad. And there's been a lot of success with this product over the last couple of years, particularly through the pandemic. And many of our members who have utilized this service called IBIS have found it to be an important lifeline between themselves and their healthcare providers, and giving them peace of mind in monitoring and overseeing their healthcare and avoiding hospitalizations and being able to be on top of a problem really before it really becomes something serious. And we are very pleased at the evolution that we've seen with this product. The newsletter this month reports on work that's being done between IBIS and MIA, which is the arm of the Mass Municipal Association that provides health insurance benefits to about 140 or so communities across the state. Many small towns are part of the MIA network, and we're thrilled to have MIA on board and helping to provide this service to local retirees. And one of the big focuses now has become, rather than marketing and providing IBIS services to everyone, they're focusing more on trying to reach those retirees who have a chronic illness like diabetes or chronic heart condition, and perhaps have been hospitalized in the last 12 months and really could use the extra monitoring services and oversight to help them avoid rehospitalization or flare-ups of a problem. And we're going to be talking more about this and more of the specific applications, along with some new announcements in the very near future of other organizations who have become involved with this project. And we think it's going to be a tremendous benefit to public retirees here in Massachusetts to have this one additional service that is funded and provided through Medicare. At this time, there are no additional costs in terms of out-of-pocket costs to retirees. And it's one of these rare instances where it is truly a win-win. It's a win for Medicare and the GIC and MIA because it's avoiding hospital costs. If you keep retirees out of the hospital, you keep them healthy, that lowers healthcare costs. It's pretty easy to understand that. It's also a huge win for you, the members who may be using IBIS, because no one wants to be in the hospital. No one wants to have to go to the emergency room. No one wants to get sick. So if you can take some simple steps at home to help maintain your health and maintain or stave off an illness, all the better. So look to future publications of the newsletter and announcements coming from us about the growth of this program. We're thrilled with the work that's been done so far, and we're very much looking forward to further steps forward of how we can expand upon this. But for now, I'm going to sign off for today. If you've watched all the way through to the end, thank you so much. This has been a long episode. We had a lot of material to cover. I want to thank Nancy and Bill for all they do in putting this together and joining me today to explain a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes and what we're trying to accomplish. And remember, next week's update is going to be really important. We're going to be focused exclusively on the COLA next week and informing you as to what's going on and what you can expect and perhaps what you can do to help us along the way. But with that, again, happy Passover, happy Easter, be well, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.